Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and happy Thanksgiving, Bayou Blitz family. We want to thank you, all of you, especially those of you who are tuning in live for our special Black Friday edition for you retail shoppers of the Bayou Blitz podcast. My name is Bob Rose. His name is Brendan Boylan, and we are going to take you through a fun-filled holiday evening of facts, fiction, and fuckery. And with that, hello, Brendan. How are you?
I'm all right. Hope you are. A lot of travel for me. As I joked before we got on, you get two Thanksgivings in two different states. So this is not my parents' home. This is the green screen. Hopefully the green screen is doing a good job of making the illusion look like I'm somewhere very fancy with a grand piano in the living room. But I'm not.
I might have to get myself a green screen drop back, but I'd have it with like a natural disaster or something in the background.
So just like the Saints, the last Saints offense in the red zone last week.
Yeah, a little bit.
That'll just an ongoing shot of those unsuccessful drives. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, hence the term fuckery for the evening.
There you go. Well, hope you and Lauren and Will had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys have plenty of leftovers to make some turkey sandwiches over the next couple days. And I hope everybody at home had a wonderful Thanksgiving with their loved ones as well.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. A lot of you guys have followed Brendan and I for several years now, and are the backbone of the support of the growing brand of your Bayou Blitz. So not just a happy Thanksgiving, but just a very Merry Christmas season. However you celebrate, whether religious or not, and you know what, a great end to what's been a rough 2025 for a lot of us out there.
Absolutely, and I did want to extend as well. Just things we're thankful for, and obviously family, health, all of you guys. I'm thankful for just a wonderful co-host in Bob Rose over the last we were on episode 189 together on the podcast, and many years together working. So just very thankful for a guy like you to not just call a co-host but a friend. So thankful for you, as Bob said. Happy holidays and a Merry Christmas a little early to everyone as well.
Yeah, and Brendan, I'm thankful for you too, and your friendship. Something that we our whole family values very closely. We love the very few times that we're able to get together. And I hope to make it more in the future. But definitely value the times that we do get to spend together, both on air and in person. And you know what, the Bayou Blitz over the last calendar year, really extending late into back into 2024. We acquired some new friends out at Get Checked or Check Out. tcynow.org is the website, so make sure you check that out, folks. They are a very good friend of us here, our families too. Starting with Shireen DeWalt, the co-founder of Get Checked or Check Out. That's a website, a charitable website, put in place to help guide you, to solutions. If you or a loved one receives a frightening medical diagnosis, you just don't know where to turn, what steps to take next. Get Checked or Check Out is there for precisely that. They will steer you in the right direction for research options, treatment options, therapy, both physical and emotional, both individual and group or family. So check out that website, see what they're all about. If you have a little bit extra this holiday season, please donate. I know I would consider it a personal favor, and it's such a terrific cause. Now, the major fundraiser that Get Checked or Check Out does every single year, and something, if you want to gift your family a cruise for the 2026 year, you can do so with the Get Checked or Check Out Foundation's annual Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. The 2026 cruise sets sail on March 26th. That's a Thursday, out of Jacksonville, Florida, bound for the Bahamas for an unforgettable weekend. An unforgettable weekend in the New Celebration, Key Island, and Nassau. We're going to be partying there from March 26th until we return. Some of us might not, but the boat is scheduled to return on Monday, March 30th. And during that period of time, you get to join Black and Gold legends, Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, and Courtney Roby. For a tremendous fun-filled getaway with a purpose, and that purpose is to benefit such a great foundation. All the tickets, all the cabins, all the money raised goes to the Get Checked or Check Out Fund or Foundation, excuse me. But during the trip, you get to hang out with these Saints legends, which we'll be bringing on in the upcoming weeks. I would love to catch up with all those guys. Delvin, Ty, Mike, Courtney, they're all personal friends of ours as well as their families. And that's just it. They'll be on this cruise, but you don't just get limited access to them. You're hanging out with them and their families the entire trip. There's a reserved spot on the boat in the bars. All our cabins are together, out on the deck, out on the beach for dinners. We're all hanging out together. And in the process of the trip, we're going to be playing Beach Olympics with your favorite team captain, compete in a very intense and fun putt golf tournament, having meals together, game nights, trivia, Q&A, and other little contests with these players. And like I said, we're partying the days and nights away, and we're doing so for a cause. All these tickets help raise the much needed funds, so you can reserve your spot now. Gift your family a cruise. Reserve your spot through summer at 985-788-6584. She's through Seven Seas Travel, but when you get a hold of Summer, make sure that you mention us, Bob, Brendan, and the Bayou Blitz, and she will take care of you. And you can contact Shireen, the co-founder of Get Checked or Check Out, for any more details. Shireen's number is 504-305-7563. And hey, if you guys need those numbers again, need the dates, need any information, need to hear about my own experiences on the cruise, I'll be happy to talk about it. You can reach out through to me on my Twitter Messenger. I think I have it working now. Facebook Messenger, text, email. I answer any and all forums. And last but not least, Get Checked or Check Out wants to remind us all that November is Diabetes Awareness Month. Diabetes is a disease that affects about 38 million Americans, both adults and children. And this is a disease that can adversely affect your eyesight, your kidneys, your nerves, and your heart, as well as being linked to several different types of cancers. Now, children's diabetes aside, this is typically more likely to develop in ages 35 or older, but family history, people who are not physically active, obese, or don't maintain a healthy diet, you tremendously increase your odds, for contracting this deadly disease. And increased chances also exist in certain races as well, so be aware of that. But there are some controllables that you can manage through your diabetes ABCs. Take that A1C test and your blood glucose tracking through your medical health provider. So make that appointment today or very, very soon, either for yourself or for your loved ones, not just for this, but for honestly anything else, physical, mental, and emotional. B, maintain your blood pressure. There are several different ways to do that. And C, maintain your cholesterol, also several different ways to do that. But if you manage your diabetes ABCs, that leads to generally a healthier lifestyle and significantly less odds of contracting something that is deadly to so many people throughout the world.
Yeah, very well said, Bob. Very well said. While I won't be going on the cruise this year, I've joked about giving you guys some weighted golf balls, doing that whole thing. I do think it would be fun if we were able to, you and I, pitch in something that you can give away on the cruise
Yes, for sure.
to some fans. So we're going to work on that. We're going to make sure that there's something that you guys can win in a giveaway or a raffle or something from Bob and I. One is a thank you for listening to us talk about just a truly pitiful 2-win football team so far this year, but also for going out and hanging out, not just with Bob and those Saints greats, but doing it all for a great cause with Get Checked or Check Out. So stay tuned for what we're able to kind of put together, and let us know if there's anything that you guys would like for us to give away. We're always open to suggestions. So is Kellen Moore and the Saints offense. Open to suggestions on how to find the end zone.
In need of suggestion. Yeah, open to. I am not so sure about that, Brendan.
I don't know. Like, look, you have a young kid. Will's not as young as he used to be. He's getting older. Every time I see him, I feel like he's grown about two feet. But I feel like sometimes Kellen Moore needs to practice Dora the Explorer and pull out a map to find the end zone. There's Will. Speaking of another 2 feet taller since the last time I saw Will. And that was just a little bit ago, a few weeks ago. Will's grown another 4 feet tall. But no, I feel like Kellen Moore needs to find the map out of his backpack and talk to Dora on how to find the end zone, Bob. They threw it up on the screen during the broadcast. Drew Brees spoke about it at nauseum at times, where the Saints got inside the 30 4 times in that game against Atlanta, came away with 3 total points. Yes, Groupie missed some kicks, and Groupie also was released this week. Cade York came in. He's the new kicker for the New Orleans Saints. You guys might recognize him from his time with LSU and the Bayou Bengals. Ultimately, I have so many things I was frustrated with. Obviously, you get down to the 1 yard line twice and can't score. One of them because of a bad snap. One of them, in my mind, and I've shared this on the show before, and I think you have some similar thoughts on this. I hate rolling the quarterback out inside the 5 because you just cut down what's already a very congested area.
Mm-hmm.
And you cut the field in half. And really, when you watch the all 22 of that, it was really Taysom had one option to throw to. And that was it. It's a terrible play design, not the most fun thing in the world. I don't know. It's frustrating because, yes, Kellen Moore comes from a system in Philly that won a Super Bowl. But let's face it, that Philly team, much, much more talented offensively than the Saints team. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon, Jalen Hurts, very talented, a very good offensive line as well in Philly. They mastered the tush push, all those things. And then you got the Saints team where it's like, I don't know. You would think for a guy who spent so many years playing quarterback in the NFL, one of the all-time greats in Boise State football history, coaching guys like Dak, I just brought up Jalen Hurts, you would think that this guy would be able to, I don't know, come up with half-decent red zone plays. But the more that I've gone through this season and the more struggles you've seen in this offense, regardless of who's on the field and who's not, who's playing quarterback, it just feels like the main ingredient of that turkey recipe that we all made this weekend or this week is just missing from the Saints week in and week out. It's like Kellen Moore is just grabbing different spices and throwing it in the bowl and not really having an idea of, hey, this is how we make this work start to finish. And I'm starting to lose faith. I'm starting to lose hope, Bob. I'm hoping you can reel me back in a little bit.
If that's what you're looking for from me, you need to find somebody else.
All right. Well, it was a good podcast, guys.
Yeah. Good night. No, because you say lost faith. I am extremely infuriated, and disgusted with Kellen Moore. And for that matter, to a slightly lesser extent, Brandon Staley. I think this whole coaching staff has done an absolutely abysmal job. Preparation, game plan design, play calling, and in-game adjustments are comically awful. But we're going to stick predominantly on the offensive side. I go back to what they said in Sunday's broadcast, and leading up to the Falcons game, as most of you know, I scout the Saints' upcoming opponent, pretty extensively, for the articles that I write over on Saints Wire. And I knew that the bulk of Atlanta's rushing success came off tackle. Now, I didn't chart the exact percentage, so I'll give credit to Fox Sports for this one. They said during the broadcast that 70% of the Falcons' offensive rushes this year came off tackle. Now, that stands to reason when you have an athlete like Bijan Robinson. But that's what that statistic infuriated me, because in the Saints, you have a guy like Alvin Kamara, and you can count on one hand the number of plays each game that Kamara is run off tackle. A Saints tackle duo, by the way, a very good tackle duo of Kelvin Banks on the left side and Talise Fuaga on the right. Now, Fuaga has missed the last couple games. By the way, for those of you that aren't up to date on the injury report, Fuaga was back at full practice duties today. Looks like he is on track to start. However, the Saints will be without Alvin Kamara because of those knee and ankle injuries. So Devin Neal looks like he's going to get his first career start. Devin showed some, to me anyway, some impressive pop, in his legs, against the Falcons. Both you and I love the pick, love the player, love the scouting that we each did on him coming out of Kansas. And Neal actually with the Jayhawks was kind of more of a between the tackles runner, similar running style to Kendre Miller. That may fit right in line with what Kellen Moore wants to do, because again, you have an athletic, agile back in Kamara, and you just refuse to run him off tackle. Goes back to what you said and what I have said several times this year as well. Kellen Moore looks like a guy who does not know his offensive personnel. Now, I was willing to give a pass on that for the first handful of weeks, first month and a half of the season, even. First year head coach, first time with the Saints. You're still learning what your players do best. But you're now 11 weeks in, 12 weeks if you count your bye. And you don't know what your players do well yet? That's a big, big problem, and to me, a giant red flag. First year head coach or not, that's inexcusable, because like you said, Kellen has spent his whole life around football, most of that on the offensive side, grew up son of a coach, success, at least moderately successful offensive coordinator. And you don't know how to use the best weapons you have. To me, that's beyond disgusting.
It's kind of I mean, you kind of said it, like, it's alarming how bad that his ability to, I don't even know if you want to call it scouting because they're on your team, like the inability to go, oh, you know what? I'm around these guys every day. I'm around these guys more than I'm around my own family. But I'm going to make you do things that you've never shown on tape that you can do well. I'm going to ask you to do things that you haven't done in the Alvin Kamara's case for the near decade that you've been in the league. I'm going to be like, you know what? All the tape says that when you run up the middle, you sustain more injuries, your yards per carry goes down, and you're really not effective, and you're disconnected in the ball game, as you can barely see some of my fingers to the green screen. But that was like 4 different things. It's remarkable. We've talked about Devon Bailey forever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he finally got some snaps. Great. But still, like, watching that route tree, you're like, why is he running some of the routes that he's running? When you get into the red zone, and there was that one drive that infuriated me the most, and you just got done talking about Neal and how impressive he was in certain parts of the game, specifically this one drive, where it was just run the ball at the middle, run the ball at the middle, run the ball at the middle. Neal, Taysom, going back and forth. And then you get inside the red zone, and it's like, hey, why did we stop doing that? Like, what happened? Do we just forget that we marched down the field with all of that? I think it's You said despicable. Maybe I'll reel it back a little bit. I'll say it is very uh, disappointing. It's like the sad parent, right? I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, even though we are extremely mad as well. But it's disappointing because, like I said, Dak Prescott in Dallas, right? Yeah, Dallas doesn't have the most impressive offense in the world, and especially after Ezekiel Elliott kind of fell off the face of the earth because he hit 30 years old. Not as impressive, but I feel like we do this every year, right? Especially with Kellen Moore being over there. Dak's first 6, 7, 8 games of the season, MVP candidate. And then it tailed off, right? But that should give you some confidence in like, hey, there's something that he saw in Dak, and at least for half the season, he was able to get that out of Dak, right? And then you talk about the very short stint working with Herbert, right? And Herbert a couple years ago being a guy that was potentially the next face of the league. That's a big thing. And then he goes to Philly and he goes and wins a Super Bowl and he gets the most out of Jalen Hurts. And being a guy that, might not be the most traditional dual threat quarterback, but because of his size and his ability and his willingness to take hits, you were able to create just a magical connection between Jalen, Saquon, and those receivers. It seemed like everywhere he went, he was able to utilize those players to the best of their abilities. As an offensive coordinator. Completely different as a head coach, right? You have more responsibility, and maybe you're pulled a little bit away from those offensive duties, but dang it, you should know exactly what's going to get that offense going, right? My real problem with all of it, Bob, and especially getting into the red zone, and I said this a lot as a commentator, especially in basketball, where every team needed to know who their acceleration pedal was.
Yes.
Right? I had a coach that I covered a lot of. His name was Rick Reeves, who coached 30-something years of Division I women's hoops. And he'd always point at a player every year when I'd sit and talk to him at the beginning of the season. He'd say, that's the acceleration pedal of my team. That's the acceleration pedal of my offense. If they're not going, the rest of the team's not going. And you're going to be able to tell that within the first couple minutes of the game. If they're not on their game, we're not on our game as a whole. Kellen Moore doesn't know who the hell his acceleration pedal is. He doesn't know who the go-to guy is. He doesn't know, hey, man, we need a big play. We need a kick in the ass. We need a guy who's going to get this thing rolling. He has no idea who to go to. And you know when you need that the absolute most? In the red zone, when you have to have a touchdown. And he goes, I don't know. We can go this way or we can go that way. So where you really just need to, and for so long, right? And the Saints fans and Saints analysts who were spoiled, for so long, you had a guy like Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Or if you needed a first down, you go to Mike. You had a healthy Taysom Hill, where it's like, man, it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You just give it to Taysom. I love Taysom. You love Taysom. But I think it's fair, and we can both admit that the injuries and his age have not helped Taysom Hill. Still effective in certain moments, but not as effective as he once was. And that's not a knock. So it's just nobody beats Father Time and multiple ACL injuries. But that's my biggest problem. He has no idea. He looks so lost. He looks as if the lights are too bright.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't the most talented roster. It's not. But like you said, you have been the head coach now for how many weeks? You've been with this team for how many months? You've watched this team from rookie minicamp all the way to now. And you don't know who the go-to guy is when you need a play? Forget about schematics in the red zone, Bob. You know as much as I do, being a Hall of Fame head coach. I'll bring it up every week if I have to, damn it. You know as well as I do, sometimes it's not about how you scheme something, how you practice something all week. Sometimes just about, for you, coaching track. Sometimes it's going and having your, the fourth leg of that race, being able to look at a guy and being like, I know you might not always run this part, but I need you. And this is what we're going to do. Just like when you get in the red zone, it might not be this is the most schematic play against this defense. It's looking at a guy and being like, I need you to put your nose down and get me a freaking first down or get in the freaking end zone.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do that. He has no idea who the dogs are on this team. And if he doesn't know who the dogs are, he doesn't get them the dang ball. And that's what was so frustrating on Sunday. And I'm now off my soapbox.
Yeah, and Sunday was just the most recent example.
It's the worst example.
Yeah, and there's a reason why this team has only scored more than 20 offensive points one time this season. And as Alan Ulrich, our friend on Under the Dome, has pointed out several times in recent weeks, the Saints are on track to be. This team is on track to be the worst Saints offense in terms of point production since 1975.
Whoa.
That's a lot of years and a lot of bad football.
I would have figured it was the Billy Joes of the world. That is a crazy stat.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're averaging, 13.2 points a game, you're not going to beat anybody in today's NFL. There's just, even on the bad teams, there's too much talent. What do you get when you average 13 points a game? You get a 2-9 record. Because the Saints
2-9 when you average 13 points a game.
Right. And the Saints defense, while leaps and bounds ahead of the offense in terms of development, they are not good enough to support a team that only scores 13 points a game. Hell, I don't know if the 70s Steel Curtain or the 85 Bears are good enough in today's NFL, to get you even a 500 record if you average 13 points a game. Situational football, man, on both sides of the football. Offense, defense, special teams too, obviously, but special teams is all situational. Situational football, this team is comically bad. And yes, the players on the field have to be held accountable. Their lack of execution, that's their fault. Lack of talent, that's the front office and the decision makers' fault. But situational football also falls to the coaches. That's a lack of, in my view, that's a lack of preparation, B, a lack of imagination, and C, a lack of lacking the ability to make any kind of adjustments. Defensively, the bomb from Cousins to Mooney, the touchdown strike, which essentially clinched the game. The third and medium or third and long, the pitch out, it was basically a running play, but it was credited as a pass reception to Bijan. Got Bijan on the edge, beat all the Saints defenders to the edge, ended up being a 30-something yard game. Turn the tide of the game, basically. Now, the defense can't be giving up plays like that. Offensively, you had 9 plays inside the Atlanta 10-yard line and came up with 3 points. You don't beat anybody when you do that. And again, we can go on. And like you said, Sunday was the worst example. But Arizona, San Francisco, those were winnable games that you literally gave away because of your failures in situational football. Buffalo, you go back and watch that Buffalo game. That was a winnable game. Situational football failed them. Again, offense and defense. A couple weeks back, I don't remember whether it was the Bears or the Patriots, but one of those was a fairly winnable game. You got your asses whipped in the trenches, really, by both games. I consider the trenches situational football because you can't do anything if you don't win in the trenches. Yeah. And do I blame it all on the coaches? No, I don't. Again, the players on the roster have to be held accountable because they're not doing their jobs on the field. The lack of talent is extremely evident. That's the fault of the front office and the decision makers, not only the current coaching regime, but obviously the previous as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of blame to spread pretty evenly around. But for anybody giving a pass for Kellen Moore just because it's his first year as a head coach, that honeymoon period is over. I'm not calling for Kellen Moore's job because I think that's foolish. I do think that you give him a chance to get things right. But But if it's me making the decision on whether to hire or fire a coach, that leash heading into this offseason got a hell of a lot shorter because of the lack of development throughout this entire squad all season long.
Well, it kind of reminds me in a sense, and I know some of you are going to have your skin crawling after I say this, but how often did we criticize Dennis Allen, the head coach, because it's like, well, defense is your specialty, right? Great defensive coordinator, got to be a head coach. And like, well, defense is your specialty. Like, what the heck is going on? I'm not quite ready to get there with Kellen Moore, but kind of like you said, with a short leash, I'm starting to swing the tide a little bit here internally and say, offense is your specialty. I know they're not as talented, right? We can admit that left, right, and until we're blue in the face. Not the most talented offense the Saints have ever had. Shoot, not even as talented as it was in some of those Dennis Allen years.
Right.
But I got to see something. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. I'm not asking for some of the Drew Brees years. We would be crazy to be asking for the Drew Brees years. But what was the biggest thing last year? What was the biggest knock on this team, especially those Spencer Rattler starts? Well, this team can't score. We talked about that a lot. It's like, well, the defense is okay. They're not good enough. But the defense was putting them in positions to be competitive to an extent. There's a couple games there that they should have won. Very similar to this year. There's a couple games that should have won. The defense did enough to keep them in the game. But we're not seeing any progress. If anything, we've seen this team take a step back from what it was, last year. I know Spencer Rattler. I get that it's Tyler Shuck. I get that Alvin Kamara hasn't been healthy. I get certain aspects of all this. But I haven't seen anything that wows me, right? And at this point, I don't even want something that wows me. I just want something that goes, makes sense. Because there hasn't been a whole lot of times this year that you or I have been able to watch a game live or watch it back and be like, you know what, that made sense. Didn't work out, but that made sense. That's my biggest problem, is I can't wrap my head around any of it. And that's what's frustrating. I don't know how good it's going to be against Miami. Miami's not a great defense.
Yeah.
They will give up points, but this is also a team in the Saints that, as you mentioned, the start, bringing up the injury report, no Alvin Kamara, get Devin Neal. I don't really know who your number 2 back after that's going to be.
I mean, they elevate. They're going to elevate Audric Esteem, the former Notre Dame star, second year player. Going to elevate him from the practice squad. Most likely, going to do the same to Evan Hull, former Northwestern standout. Both guys were 1,000-yard backs in college, but have done really nothing in the pros. They're back end of the roster guys. And that's what you're going to get when you have Alvin Kamara out, Kendre Miller out. And Kendre Miller is obviously out for the year and has been for several weeks now. You have back end of the roster guys or late round draft choices, which is a shame because you're going up against a Miami team, that ranks 29th against the run. They're giving up over 140 yards a game. Have had counting them up here, 11 runners rush for at least 65 yards against them, including 2 100-yard rushers. But can you see Devin Neal, Evan Hall, Audric Esteem? Can you see any of those 3 having that kind of production? I would love to. And again, I love Devin Neal. But I can't really see that kind of production singularly out of any of these 3 guys, particularly with the struggles of the offensive line up front.
Well, I said this, I believe it was last week, talking about Devon Bailey and fantasy projections being like 8 or 9 or something like that. And I was like, how the heck did they get that? They got Devin Neal at almost 12 in PPR. And I was like, in what have you seen on tape outside of the fact that he's gonna get bulk carries? What you're betting on him to run? Essentially, you're betting on him to run for 60 yards and a touchdown, maybe get a couple receptions.
Yeah,
that's what you're betting on to get to that fantasy number. I don't see it. I could see him getting in the end zone, but at the same time, I say that and I bite my tongue because when is the last time Alvin Kamara's got in the end zone?
This is a Saints rushing offense that is not near. They are at the bottom of the league.
Which is crazy.
Right. 20th. Only 2 teams have run for less yards per game. Only 1 team has averaged fewer yards per carry, and there's nobody that's rushed for fewer touchdowns than the Saints. This is a team that has Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill on your roster. These were 2 prolific scoring threats throughout their career, and you only have 3 rushing touchdowns as a team. That is hideous.
Alvin's got 1. Taysom's got 1. Who's got the third? Is it Rattler or Shuck?
I think it's either Rattler, maybe Kendre. Not Shuck. He has not.
You're right. Kendre did get one. Kendre did get one before he got hurt. You're absolutely right. I wanted to say it was one of the quarterbacks. I don't know why. Yeah, that's bad. That is horrendously bad. I didn't realize it was that bad. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very scary to be starting a rookie quarterback, a rookie running back, and outside Chris Olave not really having a whole lot of receiving threats that have many career receptions. That's a terrifying thing.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at a positive, the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a decent ranking against the pass, 12th overall, but they've allowed 4 different tight ends to have at least 60 yards receiving against them.
Yeah, it's a good fantasy matchup for Juwan.
It is. It is. So, I mean, if you're looking for X factors, I think Juwan's a key player to watch for sure. But an X factor could be Devin Neal, or if you want to take a leap, maybe Esteem. Outproduces him. Because you look at the Dolphins defense. They predominantly run a 4-man front, but their defensive ends: Matthew Judon, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Andre Carter. What's the one thing all these guys have in common? They're basically all clones of each other. And the Chubb has produced for a long time now. They're all undersized pass rush specialists, so you can run on the edge against these guys. The question is 2 questions, I guess. A, is Kellen Moore actually going to do it? And B, who's the best runner to do it with Kamara on the sidelines?
It's a great question. I think Neal's the obvious answer. Taysom's going to be more of your, not that you have goal line backs anymore or short distance backs, but he's going to be that kind of guy for you. I think it's a wonderful point, that you made, especially with a guy like Bradley Chubb, who I think a lot of people immediately go, wow, like look at the production he had and has had in this league. It might not be leaps and bounds over some other edge rushers, but very consistent in his career, a guy that I would love to have on my team, but has never been a guy who's played the run really well because of his size and because he's a guy who I think just has the nose of, I'm going to get the quarterback. And doesn't really think any other way. But see, that's my problem, is the fact that you and I can't sit here and distinctively answer that question. That's an injury problem. But as you said, it's also, well, when this year has Kellen Moore win? How many times have we actually seen, okay, we're gonna run the ball effectively off tackle, right? Or you know what? We haven't seen a lot of times where they've effectively tried to run the ball in the B gap, right? I'm not even talking about off tackle, but in the B gap, there hasn't been a whole lot there.
Yeah, they're 24th in rushing attempts.
that's a concern for me. Again, when you have a rookie quarterback, there have been things that you and I have both liked about Shuck, and I think there are certain matchups in this game against the Dolphins that Shuck can take advantage of. You just mentioned Jawan Johnson being maybe the biggest one, the biggest potential key contributor here. But if you don't have a run, like, I don't want to see Tyler Shuck throw the ball 45 times, and neither do you. That's not a recipe for success. But when you have this type of bad injury luck and you don't have a go-to guy to run the football, maybe Shuck has to. I don't know. We've talked a lot about offense. We don't have a whole lot of time left. The downfall of the Dolphins offense over the last 3 years. Obviously, the Tua injuries have not been helpful, but this went from a team that was high-flying with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Tua Tagovailoa, and all of a sudden, what is this team? Where are they? They're asking a lot of internal questions as well.
Yep.
This is a Saints defense that I think has the opportunity, especially with guys like Chase Young, Cameron Jordan, to disrupt some things. But if, on the same hand, this is a Miami team that I think in the back of everybody's mind, it's like, you know that somewhere internally it exists that they could be that high-powered big play offense again. And that's always going to internally scare you because you know it's there.
Yeah, and the key for the Dolphins offense is not Tua. It's the running back, Devon Achane. Probably the biggest big play threat in the NFL, not named Jahmyr Gibbs. And Shane has a 900 yards rushing, very quiet 900 yards rushing. He, as you know, being a fantasy guy, he's a feast or famine guy. He'll explode 1 week. With 3 or 4 long plays, sometimes usually runs, but sometimes as a receiver out of the backfield. Gets his touchdowns in bunches. But he's a legitimate threat to take it all the way in the blink of an eye once he gets into space, once he gets outside those tackles. And that's where the Saints have struggled. Trying to keep pace with him. Close your eyes and try to imagine Pete Werner trying to track down this guy in space. It makes me queasy. Just mentioning it. Which brings me to my major X factor for the defense. You mentioned Chase Young, Cam Jordan. Those guys have played pretty well in recent weeks. And I think that they are keys, because you got to get pressure on Tua. You're going to get your opportunities against Tua because he always holds on to the ball too long, and he does not have a good pocket awareness whatsoever. So, you should get your chances. But a Saints Saints defender I've been really impressed with most of this year in limited snaps. Isaiah Stallbird.
Yeah.
I love Demario Davis. You know that. He's one of my favorite Saints of all time. That's in my top 10. Stallbird is the best athlete on the Saints front seven. And I'm not saying there's not many guys, linebackers, maybe no linebackers that could stay with Shane, but Stallbird is the guy that I want tracking him down on the edge over Pete Werner, over Danny Stutzman, even over Demario. Now, Demario reads plays like no one really ever has. So he makes up for a lost step by instincts and anticipation. But Isaiah Stallbird is a heat-seeking missile. So I want to see more snaps from him because if the Dolphins beat the Saints on that side of the ball, it's going to be via the big play. Getting Devon in space, throws down the field or quick throws to Jalen Waddle and let him go to work. Because as you know, he's a deep threat, but he's also really nifty. Once you get him that short, quick throw over the middle, so the Saints are going to have to tackle well, and take good angles to the football. You're not going to be able to read and react against this team because you don't have the speed to keep up. You have to anticipate and be out physical them. That's the key to beating Miami.
What you just said is really interesting because Stallbird's been great as a special teams guy, and a lot of those special teams guys are extreme athletes,
Mhm.
right? And it's funny because you've been a Jalen Ford guy for so long, and for another linebacker to kind of step in and be like, wow, and really kind of, I don't want to say shift your mind, because I think deep down, you
And we both like Stallbert in preseason too. So I mean, he got a well-deserved shot on the team, spot on the team rather, and he surpassed Jalen Ford. And I am pleasantly surprised at what I've seen from Isaiah, and I want to see more opportunities for him.
I think he will get some, especially as the year continues to kind of fade away from the Saints. I think what you said about Tua is very true. Holding the ball, bad pocket presence. That's why I highlighted the edge guys specifically. It'd be really nice to see a Carl Granderson kind of get right performance. It would be, which I don't know if we're going to get it.
He's on the side of a milk carton and has been for almost 2 months.
Yeah, it's been kind of wild how hot he started the year to whatever this is now. The other guy that I'm going to really watch in this game, without just naming the entire defensive line, is I really think Brian Bressee's had a quiet, good year.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of his role, right? Is just a quiet, doesn't stuff the stat sheet type of guy. But when you throw on the film, you are impressed with, hey, look at what Brian did today. I think this is going to be a good opportunity for him to clean up a little bit, if you will, because this is what's going to happen in my mind. Tua, zero pocket presence. Some of that has led to injury, unfortunately. But let's just say there is zero pocket presence and he tries to step up and run. I think that's an opportunity when you have the edges kind of crashing. Gives Brian an opportunity to kind of eat all those Thanksgiving leftovers.
Yeah, and Nathan Shepard too, and Shepard after he was invisible for the first 4 or 5 games. He's come on pretty well in the last handful of ball games too.
I think late and delayed blitzes is going to be a big thing in this game.
Yeah.
You said Demario Davis is a guy who's kind of mastered that. I look at Alontae Taylor, but also you brought up Jalen Waddle, a guy who big playability, but is really good in that short and intermediate as well. With the ability to rack up yards after the catch. I look at the young secondary to make some plays as well. Just kind of see where they're at. Yeah, this isn't the most talented receiving corps top to bottom, but it's really good. And Jalen Waddle is a guy that could give a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry trouble or Riley trouble. Or it could be an opportunity for them to show, hey, like we have the confidence to go up against one of the better young receivers in the league and really shut them down.
Yeah, and Tua's thrown a league high 13 interceptions too. So his sack numbers are a little bit down, from in past years. But again, I still watch him, and he's still a quarterback that holds on to the ball too long. He's now getting rid of it instead of eating that sack, but he's getting rid of it a tick too late. And defenders are altering his mechanics. As he gets the ball out, resulting in poor throws. He's a shorter quarterback. So, back to what you said about Brissy and Shepard, those are guys, or DeMario on a delayed inside blitz. Those are guys that are going to get into his sight lanes. Maybe get their hands on a couple balls, tipped opportunities, or just block his view. For a guy like Sanker or Justin Reed at the safety position, to kind of bait Tua into thinking he has an open target. You block his sight line, he pulls that trigger, and now you have a potential big play in the secondary.
I'm going to ask you, because we didn't get to talk about it because of technical problems on your end over the weekend, to say the least. My travel schedule this week. You've been very critical of Justin Reed. He was the only player that scored a touchdown last week. Does that get into any good graces for you? And what are you looking for really the rest of the season out of this secondary, right? Because we talked about how young they are. We talked about the lack of experience, but we've had a lot of those up and down moments so far with them this year where you see some promise, but at the same time, you're like, oh my God. I think the Kirk Cousins bomb the moon is a good example of the, oh my God. So what do you expect out of a guy like Reed to be the leader the rest of the way?
Well, and that's just it. Reed needs to be the leader, and it needs to happen first by example. He had that nice touchdown on the interception return, but he had a couple boneheaded plays, poor pursuit angles and things like that early in the game. I thought generally after the first quarter, Justin Reed did play a strong ball game. We know Alontae Taylor played a good game. Quincy Riley had another terrific game. I mean, it really didn't give up any receptions of significance. The long touchdown to Mooney, that was on Kool-Aid McKinstry. But if you go back and watch that play, yes, Kool-Aid got beat to the inside, but it was actually Sanker at safety. It was a too high safety look, and Sanker bit hard down underneath, and Mooney just ran right by him. Again, those kind of things happen with a young secondary. You cannot have that happen against a team who wants to go down the field. And I know I've come across as pretty critical about Tua tonight, but that man throws a great deep, like an elite deep ball. You blow some plays at safety, and you're going to be looking at the back of a Waddle jersey or a couple of these other guys, who aren't producing, but we know can fly. So you have to eliminate those kind of mistakes in a secondary. And I still say that as a unit, the New Orleans defensive backs are the best unit, have been the best unit on this team throughout the year. And if the Saints are going to win this game, those guys are going to need to come up with a couple of interceptions and take them back the other way.
I'm glad what you said about Tua, because I think, especially with the struggles for the Dolphins this year, he's the head of the snake, right? The quarterback's always going to get the blame. Tua, obviously, the injuries are well documented. I think it is safe to say he is one bad hit away from never playing football again. But what you just said is so true, and that's why there's a lot of people, myself included, yeah, he's a name in the hat guy. But that deep ball, the promise that's in that deep ball is the only reason he could ever get out of the name of the hat guy.
Yeah.
If he can piece some other things together, he has the potential, scariest word in sports, of being a really good quarterback in the league, better than average. Right now, he's kind of just in that average spot. But the other thing with Tua, you said he throws a great deep ball. He throws a lot of dying ducks as well.
Yeah, he does. And
that's where I think the Saints could capitalize in this game, especially with some of that pressure coming off the edge and forcing his clock. He also has a very much like Tebow, another lefty guy, the wind-up into the throw for Tua makes it very susceptible for strip sacks and also just throwing off timing. And I think that's a big thing for Tua as well, is some of the timing with some of these receivers not named Waddle because of the wind-up, because of the double clutching, things like that, could kind of go hand in hand with lack of pocket presence. But you throw a lack of pocket presence on top of this weird clutch wind-up throwing motion, that gives a lot of opportunities for defensive backs to jump. Something that Cam Jordan's made a living on, and Brian Bresee as well, getting hands up, forcing deflections. All those things come into play. And I think that's where the Saints defense can capitalize. But as we already mentioned, it's a game that scares me, because I feel like while this is a very winnable game for New Orleans, even with the injuries, I do think it's a winnable game. This is a defense where it's like you give up one big play, maybe two big plays, and it's over.
Yeah, literally.
Because that's how this Miami team is. And for a team that can't score in New Orleans, it's even worse. So with that, I think that's why it's scary. I want to end on one note, Bob, and it's about the passing attack for New Orleans. We've talked about Juwan Johnson. Have not talked a lot about receivers not named Chris Olave lately. Obviously, Vele's been the topic of conversation because they're a bigger body guy. But Mason Tipton had some moments.
He did.
Special teams especially. He's a guy that is going to get some opportunities along with some other They're not even name in a hat receivers. They are receivers that a lot of people don't know type of names. What do you expect out of this team? Maybe from a scheme standpoint, we've talked so much about Kellen Moore's lack of scheming. You're going to have a lot of defenses that start honing in on Chris Olave naturally. How do you create things, and what needs to happen, especially with these other receivers, to allow opportunities for Chris to not just get open, but create some of those big plays that we all know that he can create at a moment's notice?
Well, and I really like the way Devon Bailey runs the slant. He's no Michael Thomas. I mean, nobody is when it comes to that route. But they seem to at least found a niche with Bailey as far as that goes. Now, like you pointed out earlier in the broadcast, Bailey can and has run a wider route tree. So you have to expand on that a little bit. I like the quick throws to Mason Tipton as well. Do not be surprised if we see some wide receiver screens to Tipton, to Olave, because you still want to get the ball in his hands. He's going to attract a lot of defensive attention. So the way to combat that is quick throws, easy throws, simple things just to get the ball in out of Shuck's hands and into Chris's hands. And I think that's what's going to be key here. We talked about the Dolphins' defensive ends in a critical way as run defenders, but they are very good pass rushers. And Fuaga's coming off of an injury. Banks is coming off what I thought was his worst outing of the year. And the Falcons just blitzed Shuck coming right out of the locker room and did so nonstop. And the offensive line as a whole was just piss poor.
Cesar Ruiz was especially bad.
Oh yeah. And you have interior issues. So Miami's going to test you there with their extra rushers because they know that they have skill on the outside with Judon, with Chubb, with Chop. So Banks and Fuaga are the key because they have to hold up in their one-on-one blocking. Devin Neal has actually been getting a lot of third down and passing situation reps because of his ability to pick up the blitz. Now, unfortunately, that takes Neal out of the equation, as a pass receiver, unless it's a delayed check down. I thought Shuck, while under heavy duress, still showed a decent amount of poise. I was impressed by a couple of off balance and off platform throws that he had, but you don't want your quarterback, no matter who it is, you don't want your quarterback doing that very much. So, again, quick throws, get the ball in the receiver's hands quickly. And what that's going to create, guys like Minka Fitzpatrick, and Jack Jones in the Dolphins secondary, they're just salivating at the chance to jump a route and take it back the other way. So you have some early success with those hitch routes, with those slants, with those quick hitters. Then all of a sudden, as long as your protection holds up, pump fakes and double moves, and lo and behold, God forbid, you might get a shot or two down the field. So early on, look for short, quick throws, wide receiver screens, tight end screens, crossers from Jawan, from Tipton, from Vele, it's simple things, with the protection holding up. And I think that's going to open you up from a couple shots down the field later on.
I would love, just hear me out, I would love to see a targeted pass to Vele or Johnson in the red zone. I know. Crazy thought.
They're the biggest bodied guys.
Crazy thought. Throw it to a guy who's 6'6". I know. I'm just throwing that out there. That is my suggestion to you, Kellen Moore. Why not just throw one up and see if they can get a rebound? Right? We did that for Jimmy Graham for so many years. I'm not saying either of those dudes are Jimmy Graham.
No.
But they are tall, big-bodied dudes that you should trust to be able to come up with a 50-50 ball, especially against a defensive back that is probably about 6 inches shorter. Just a thought. With that, Bob, we did it. We got through another episode of the Bayou Blitz. While we may or may not have way too much turkey still flowing through our bodies. So congratulations to both of us for making that happen. I'm speaking maybe more so than Bob because I had my second Thanksgiving today, so there's a lot, there's a lot of food that I'm just sitting here on. Bob, you and I will be back. We'll have our post game after, hopefully, decent.
We think.
We think after the Dolphins game. Bob, you've been a busy fella. Obviously, you're starting to get all your social media and different things back on track, which means you got articles that have been back on track for a few days. You're putting out good work.
Thank you.
Where people find you and your work if they don't already follow it?
The easiest way to find my written work is just follow all of us over at the Saints Wire. That's a USA Today publication, so you can jump onto usatoday.com or just go directly to Saints Wire, which is also available on all the social media platforms. I post, as I always have, post my individual articles on my personal social medias, which is Bob Rose on Facebook, at Bobby R 2613 over on Twitter. And like Brendan said, I think I got my social medias up and running. I still got some glitching. So those of you that do like to talk to me through Messenger on either app, sorry for my week-long absence, but I'm slowly getting back into the foray. And again, treat yourself, treat your family to that early Christmas present. And book your cabin for the Get Checked or Check Out Foundation and the annual Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise, Thursday, March 26th through Monday, March 30th. You get to go to the Bahamas. You get to hang out with Delvin Breaux, Michael Lewis, Tyrone Hughes, Courtney Roby, and you get to benefit a great foundation. Check out that website at tcynow.org. If you're not going on the cruise, then just donate a little bit today. But seriously, I want to see not all new. I want to see a bunch of new faces on this cruise. I had a blast last year. I'm a lifer from here on out, as long as they'll have me. But I want more of you. I want to make this an annual power event throughout the, where it's just talked about through NFL circles. Forget just New Orleans Saints, but it's in your power to do it.
Yeah, Bob, you mentioned it before, being almost like a big family reunion. That's what you want. Year in and year out. So think about it that way too. You got a big family reunion with all of your Bayou Blitz family and friends. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be jealous because Bob's I know how you are, Bob. You're going to post like 7 billion photos online, or you're going to text me and be like, wish you were here. And I know that's how it's going to go, but I know you guys are going to have a great time. Like Bob said, if you are not going to be on the cruise, at least go check them out. Donate a little bit, see what you can do to help and support what is a great cause. The website's down here at the bottom. Well, Bob Rose, if you can still see my finger through the green screen, for Bob Rose, I'm Brendan Boylan. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Bayou Blitz podcast. We'll be back Sunday following the Saints and the Dolphins. We hope you have all had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Guys, go ahead and get your Christmas shopping done. Maybe not today. It's Black Friday if you're watching this live. But go ahead and get it done, because I know that future Bob and Brendan are going to be stressed about it and making sure that all the gifts have come in. We want to make sure you guys are not also stressed with us. Let us be stressed. You guys go do something else. Until Sunday, hope you guys find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. See you then. Who dat?